All right, click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, join channel, become a member, or join the Telegram or the Gab if you're. Those are kind of free speech platforms. So just kind of warning you now. When they say free political speech platforms, they really, really mean it. This guy is great. He talks about bad TV shows, and he'll never run out of material. He watches shows. He watched all 3 years of Batwoman. When I say it's unwatchable, you hear that and you go, oh, yep, it's just, you say that about a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are unwatchable. Okay, go watch an episode then. The full episode, or whatever it is. I don't know how long it is. Half hour, 45 minutes, something? Go try to watch a full episode of Batwoman, or 2 episodes. See if you can do it. See if you can sit through the whole thing. I mean, pay attention, not with your cell phone in your hand. You sit there and you have a cocktail. Yeah, watch all 28 minutes of a Batwoman show. And then you get back to me and you go, holy shit, I can't believe they put stuff like this on the air. Is this like, are they funneling money for tax evasion purposes? Or are they laundering? What are they doing? How does this make it on the air for 3 years? The first year had a different girl, and the past 2 years had this other girl. They're just equally horrible. I don't know if there's, the only thing I can say is the first year's girl was attractive, but I think she was into other women. Actually, I think the second year's girl is also into women. They're both beautiful girls, but they're just kind of beautiful in different ways. I like the first girl I love that lean look on her. But I mean, like, you couldn't actually listen to the dialogue because it was like children wrote it and they're like, here's $50,000 per episode. Let's make something horrible together. Like, and it went on for 36 hours. I don't know how many episodes. I don't know how many did they do you? It bad to the point of making Vagrant Queen look good. Anyway, so this is another show that did as well as Vagrant Queen. It went one season. I mean, back in the old days, seasons of, what was that? The Addams Family? I remember I was watching a thing on history on that, and they're like, the Addams Family, the seasons back then for shows would be like 70 episodes in a season, that's a lot of filming. That's a lot of writing if you're writing those scripts. It was something ridiculous like that. And now an episode is, almost nothing. It's the writers have all. I mean, if you're writing something like more than once a week, that's wow. I can't imagine the amount of the teamwork to plot out episodes and stuff. It's got to be insane. Anyway, so this is a show that went a year. And predictably, it failed. You've probably never seen it. You might have heard of it. I mean, people talk about it. I don't know if this Thorias guy reviewed it. It's, Okay, so here's the thing. Does everyone deserve representation? Everyone deserves their show, all that kind of like the newspeak, woke speak? Yes. It's not everything on the left is insane. Like some of the things they do, like trigger warnings is a good concept. That's a fair point. I'll concede that. It's a good idea. Trigger warning, you're about to watch a horrible show. Yeah, everything deserves representation, but it's just a numbers game. At the end of the show opened at like 800,000 viewers, which I guess in the world of TV is not very good. And it closed at about 400,000 eyeballs. And then you got to worry about retention rate and that kind of stuff. But now, you look at it like everyone deserves representation. Okay, so you got a little POC girl who's of a certain age, so she's going to attract kids of that age. But it's the show is also very clearly about identity politics, like really, really heavy on identity politics. In fact, she says it here. It's about she gets some weird quotes where I think some of her quotes are somebody who is not playing with a full deck, where she has this view of the world like she wants to put all these identity politics into this wokey woke show about you can elevate a storyline without putting other people down, which is what old movies and old comic books and old stories were masters at, and what this new generation of folks in the past 20 years doesn't seem to get that point. They when they make Mary Sue's, a lot of the times they're not elevating people, they're just putting other people down, and then they make themselves Mary Sue untouchable, walking on water type of things. You see that with a ton of remakes where there was that one remake, I think it was Anne Hathaway was in it, where she played a witch And the original story was an English boy goes to this hotel, and there's witches there, and he goes on this adventure, and it's some English story. And the revamped story was a little POC kid goes on this adventure, and he meets up with two other kids, but the two other kids are, I don't know what they're, some kind of Euro something. And so in the story, the little POC kid did everything. You go, oh, you got three little kids working together. It's going to be some teamwork. That's how movies in the 80s, that's like the big genre, like the big, for people of a certain age, like the 80s were this big, there were a ton of movies during the 70s, 80s. It's going to be three kids. It's going to be like the Goonies. It's going to be teamwork, right? And it wasn't. I forget what it was called. It was, Anne Hathaway, they got in a little bit of trouble because they made her hand have three fingers to symbolize witchcraft or something, and they got into trouble for that. But the story is like three little kids working together. They're all gonna have strengths and weaknesses. It was just the one little POC kid did everything in the movie. You can find the movie online. It's worth watching to see how they do this. Like, so these other little two kids, because they weren't POC, they were the wrong skin tone, they did nothing. They were just sidekicks. That's what a Mary Sue character is. Like, everyone else is just along for the ride to kind of shine a light on the main character. It's like, well, that's not what, if this movie was filmed 20 years earlier, 30 years earlier, you gotta kind of go back further and further to find when movies were in that sweet spot, which is, probably like from 75 to 1990-ish. Like, if you want to say like, fun, simple, stupid movies, so it was kind of a sweet spot in American filmmaking. They would have had all these kids working together. And literally, I should clip that one scene, and I can't show it on YouTube, but I could put it on Odyssey, which this is like, the one kid figures out every puzzle, and the two other kids are just kind of sitting there encouraging him. I was like, who wrote this? Why would you write this? It makes for a very dull movie, which I'm sure that movie was pretty dull. Anyway, so people don't want to be put down, and so your target audience is a country's a third of a billion people, and this kind of stuff is going to be an American audience. This kind of stuff doesn't translate overseas. So you target audience, a third of a billion people. How many of those are POC girls? Well, you're talking, let's see, a few percentage out of a large number. You're down to a few percentage, and that number works out to a few 100,000 people who had eyeballs on the show. And I don't know the retention rates, and it started at one thing and it dropped down, so it probably means nobody. Listen, if I'm a Russian, I want to see Russian people in stories, but I don't want to see Russian Mary Sues. I want to see them have challenges. I want to see if you're going to have a multicultural cast, then you can't just make the Russian people, the Russian hero protagonist, solve every puzzle. And that's what Mary Sue woke shows are, where the protagonist is this one POC, and everyone who's not this POC. It kind of thing that stuck out at me. There was that Black Panther movie where they're in Wakanda, and Shuri she's working on a body that comes in on a stretcher, a patient. And so they're in Wakanda in Africa, and it's all Africans, or in Wakanda it's all Africans because it's an ethno state based Stanley and Kirby. So she gets this guy, some kind of vaguely, I don't know, Englishman on a patient, and she goes, "Oh, another white boy." It's like, you're in Wakanda in Africa. Do you have a lot of? Oh no, you don't actually have a lot of European guys as patients. You just put that line in there because you wanted to, because boy is a derogatory, it's a pejorative to you. So you wanted to turn it around and insult a whole group of people because that's woke, to turn the insult around. And just, why didn't you just call him a white ninja or something if you really wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you really wanted to go full 1469 with your ridiculousness. It's like progressives don't actually want to progress anything. They just want to be dicks. Like, they're just racist assholes the whole time. You mean the left-wing guys were the racists the whole time? Yeah, welcome to Earth. They were the jerks the whole time. It seems like that to stand out in movies. You realize, like, they just put that in the movie just because they wanted to twist the knife a little bit. I mean, like, why do you think people are dipping out of movies? The Batman, I think that did really well financially. I saw some of it, and there's a scene. I can't even get into it because I'll lose my freaking mind. Or she's talking about privileged people. But, you could have substituted a lot of words in front of that privilege if you wanted to prefix it with something like a lot of other groups would actually fit in there a little bit better. You know the ones I'm talking about, but obviously YouTube algorithm is what it is. I mean, you could have put other groups in there. It's like you wouldn't have done that, would you? Would you? I don't know why people support these movies. You don't have to financially support them if you don't want to. Anyway, so this chick is absolutely why are videos demonetized? Absolutely insane, and she talks about like centering POC characters in TV shows. But again, you just got to kind of look at it like, well, so female POC of this variety is 7%ish, 6-7% of the audience, and then within a certain age range, so you're talking like 2% of the base country is going to be at least available to watch this show. So that's a few million people. You whittle down, 35, 40 million people down. You whittled it down to like 2 million people out of a potential audience. So out of that potential audience, you did pretty well. You got 400,000 people. But I mean, depending on what the show needed to do on that network, that wasn't great. But she's talking about centering POC girls. So the way she describes it, because a different type of hero that centers a girl, a POC girl that centers a different kind of folk. I mean, are people or not? Like, are stories universal or not? Is Superman universal? Can everyone see themselves in Superman or Luke Cage or from Spider-Man to Miles Morales? It's like this. Are these stories universal or not? It's like these people aren't curative writers; they're transformative writers. These are nothing more than vehicles to spread propaganda. The story means the DC universe, the Marvel universe, the vaguely superhero universe means nothing to them. Star Wars, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. No, you're not. Just shut the fuck up. You're not. Just stop. Nobody believes that. I've been a fan of DC since. No, you're not. You read a few comic books, maybe, but no. They're transformative. They're not curative. They want to change everything about it. It's simply like we need to get this communist dialectic across. And honestly, communist dialectic would be a whole lot more wholesome than this race-based dialectic that they're pushing, which is just, I mean, it's like if Louis Farrakhan and David Duke came together and we're working on scripts that would come up with a lot of this Mary Sue nonsense. Anyway, if I go on, it's really hard to stay within the YouTube algorithm. I don't know how other like pop culture channels do it. Quite too long, I just lose my mind. So she's talking about things that have already been done, about having POC characters in shows. And on one argument, you got like, well, it's already been done. And the other argument you got is, well, the characters are universal. And then on the other hand, you go, oh, representation. People want to see themselves in the movies. It's like, well, your audience is America. 60% of America is, or 58% of America is European origin. Then the next biggest chunk is Latin American. And then all the way down, you're down to 13% is going to be African, that little slice of the pie. And then you cut that in half for females. And then you cut that 6% in half or in a third for females of a certain age. You're like, oh, that's why we only got 400 eyeballs, because we're specifically marketing for 2% of the population. And of that, it's like, do they want to see themselves as Mary Sue's, or do they want to see real stories where everyone has a chance to shine? Apparently, they for whatever reason, they weren't into it, because the show's been canceled after 1 year. Like, even Vagrant Queen was better than Batwoman. And that went, I think, 6 or 7 episodes. And Batwoman went 3 friggin' years. But now I think about it, like, an episode a year now is probably like a dozen episodes or something. It's not like it was back in the day. You never have to watch modern TV ever again if you want. If you want to turn off TV at like 2000, the year 2000, TV, comics, books, whatever, sci-fi, and everything before that, you'll never run out of material to watch. There's just endless supply of movies that are new to you, stories and comics and books and sci-fi and fantasy that are new to you. There's people write that stuff, You'll never, ever need to watch something past 2000 if you don't want to. 2010. There's a psychological thing, like the fear of missing out is why people watch new stuff. But then you look at it like, it's not like it's just woke and it's palatable. It's woke and it's unpalatable. It's beyond the point of where any, like something like the Batman when they're talking about, privileged people, that makes the whole thing unwatchable. I mean, swapping out characters is a lot of movies that people like that latest Spider-Man, Coming Home or something. They like that Spider-Man. Then you look at it like, But they swapped out the characters, every character but the main one. What's to like? Oh, it doesn't matter. It was still, it's felt like Spider. Have you read the comics? Because that's not what Spider-Man is. I mean, if you accept it, if you pay for it, you'll get more of it. I mean, what you subsidize, you get more of it. It's just that simple. Anyway, this stuff is so frustrating. These people are just, if you don't pay for it, eventually it'll go away. Eventually Disney will run out of money or DC will run out of money. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.